Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. Take you for a ride on a slow motion China. Tell me, where in the world is
Carmen San Diego?
Steal their
Candlelights and empty souls quietly behind the doors are bleeding us just for fun. Men of power telling lies with shifty hands and thirsty eyes, and they can smell your fear like blood. Oh, my weary soul, we met your kind before. Set fire to us all, and oh, sweet Providence, come save us from ourselves, from hell and consequence.
Welcome back to Providence Tonight. This is your host, Ioe Torrent, and we're here for a special spooky season episode of Providence Tonight. Now, to be honest, Halloween season is probably my favorite season of the year, and I really like to get into the mood of things. For instance, I've already watched the 2007 Rob Zombie Halloween earlier today, as well as the 1978 original, just to kind of compare the two films. From here on out, I'll probably be watching a Halloween movie or a horror film for the rest of the season until November 1st. So with that, it's got me in the mood. And so we start off season 43 with a spooky tale of Return of the Crab People, as the Providence Crabs are back and ready to avenge themselves from their playoff miss last season and rejoin the realm and the circle of playoff contention. So let's go ahead and kind of take a quick look at the Providence Crabs entering season 43. Currently on the PBE TPE tracker, they're listed as the fourth team in terms of most total TPE, which is good for the first in all the Legends and the Legends East. So let's take a quick look at the upcoming Season 43 roster for the Providence Crabs. It's led by its Season 33 first-round pick, Whiskey Fuse, shortstop, as the top TP earner, followed by Pax Torrent, the A starting pitcher for the Crabs. And then we have Mr. Al E. Gator with 1,596 playing right field, Joe Shiesty Jr., 1,541. We get a little bit of a dip here with Beef Reuben Rye, season 31, right in the middle of the regression, 1,297 left fielder. John Hancoy at 1,237 TPE starting pitcher, second in that rotation. Abraham Linkrab, 1,175 starting pitcher. James Daly, 1,075 starting pitcher. Then we get out of the 1,000 club with season 33, Jose Arcadio Buendeta, who has 995. Relief pitcher Crabston DePoston, season 39, 992 relief pitcher. Swanson Goose, 985. Third baseman Santiago Benito, 951 TPE at catcher. Covey at 865 shortstop. Stubby McGuire, season 30 right fielder, 853. Flamethrower Meta, starting pitcher, 853. So as we're kind of going down, we're kind of getting into some of the newer draft picks, season 40 and newer. We have season 41, Philip Alou, 695 TPE left fielder, who is going to be called up, as well as Dusty DeSoto, 444, season 42. So this will be a rookie relief pitcher. So The Crabs look to be pretty solid on the top end. Infield looks great. Defense looks great. It's going to really be driving the driving force for this team is going to be defense pitching on for them, and then that middle to lower end of the batting order to really keep this team moving forward in a positive direction through the season as people keep learning TPE. So in case you haven't been watching and just been listening, in the background I've been playing a lot of these older horror films, stuff from Dr. Wolfenstein's Creature feature, and then some of these old black and white horror films because it's spooky season, like I said at the beginning at the top of the show. And one of the scariest parts of coming into season 43 is the fact that Providence Crabs have not made the playoffs. They did not make the playoffs last season. And to be quite honest, that is absolutely terrifying. And then it kind of mixes well with the season of spooky season here in the next few weeks as the season gets ready to kick off next week. As I don't want to relive that nightmare of not making the playoffs. So a little bit about Pax Torrent. Pax Torrent's my current player, and Pax is on that regression train. This is a second year of regression, and the clock is ticking, so to speak, on his lifespan still left on this career. And getting back to the playoffs is going to be the number one thing that the Providence Crabs need to really focus on as we get into season 43. And I think this squad can do it. And I think it's time maybe for the Voyagers to take a little voyage and to ship off for a few seasons and let Providence really get into the feel of things here. So this is pretty much a relatively quick episode this week, as it's more of a kind of introduction to the squad for season 43 as we get ready to hit spring training. And like I said, I get to kind of put in my spooky stuff. Just because I genuinely think this is the best time of the season. So that's pretty much it in terms of the pro baseball experience part of this. Stay tuned as we get into the second part of this episode where I tell a little quick story. Welcome back. I'm your host, Ioe Torrent. And last year, in my time in the ISFL, during this time of Halloween, I did a podcast where I would tell spooky stories at the end. And it kind of was a little bit of a hit. So I thought, let's bring that over here to the PBE. So if you just want to grade the first 7 minutes of this last video, that's perfectly fine. This is just more for fun. I have had an interesting first 36 years of my life, and I've got to do a lot of cool things over that time, and some of that has to do with what I do for a living. And I have, been relatively a skeptic of the paranormal and ghosts for pretty much my entire life, even though I've had a few rather interesting stories and experiences. I try to rationalize them out the best that I can before I come to the conclusion that any of it's true. But with that said, it's always fun going and feeling scared. I think feeling scared is a fun experience in the terms of, ghost stories and ghost movies and horror film. So I thought I'd tell a quick little story here for this week, and if it is a hit, maybe I'll tell some more stories. But this first one is one that was rather interesting to me, mostly because it's quick. It didn't take very long, but it was my first time that I really had to question whether or not things that go bump in the night are real. So I'll start with this. Obviously, these stories, none of these are real names. These are all changed, and some of the details might be a little different, as opposed to just to make sure that the real people involved are not figured out or name dropped. So with that. What I do for a living is I work for my local city in the government, and sometimes part of that we have to go to houses and check out legal things. And in this regard, there was a death of an elderly man who lived in this house by himself. During the course of that death, or after his death, relatively quickly, a niece who lived in another state moved in to sort of babysit the house while the affairs sort of got straightened out with the rest of the family. And she didn't have a great relationship with the family, as these things happen when people die and estates sort of kind of are up in the air on whether or not who's going to get what. There might be some turmoil within the family, especially if that family isn't necessarily as tight as it can be. And this is kind of one of those situations. So she called, and she needed some help with getting the paperwork and getting everything sort of straightened out in regards to this kind of legal battle. So I went with a colleague of mine one night, just because she wasn't able to get to the office during the daytime, so we went to her house at night. And she started to tell us how her family was trying to scare her out to move out and to go back home where she came from, and not to stay, because like I said, she was staying in the house to sort of babysit the house while these proceedings were happening. She would tell us that they would come at all times of the day and night, and would tap on her windows and hit on the walls and pound on the door and then run off. And so we thought it was a relatively juvenile situation, as maybe it was cousins or something of that nature, because this particular client wasn't very old. And so she just kind of would tell us about the family pranking her and trying to scare her into leaving. And as we're sitting there, and this isn't a very large home, I should add, we're kind of talking her through the situation and trying to help her out with regard. We hear 3 extremely loud knocks, or really pounds, on her wall to our left. Just boom, boom, boom. Extremely loud. My colleague and I immediately shot up. The front door was only within maybe 2 strides of where we were standing in the living room. We were outside in less than 2 seconds. He went one direction, I went the other. We went around the house, and there was nobody there. And I came around the corner, and I kind of looked at him, and I there really wasn't. This house was kind of by itself. There really wasn't a neighbor that was very close, or a neighbor house, or a lot. And the street was right there, and there was no signs of a car driving off or anything of that nature. And you would think, with how quickly we were able to exit the house, that we would have saw whatever it was that was out there pounding on the wall directly to the left of the front door. I will admit it was odd, but we tried to explain it and rationalize the situation. So we went back inside, and obviously our client is scared, as she just basically said, see, there they are. They're out there trying to scare me to leave. And we kind of try to rationalize the situation, that maybe it's an old house. Old houses sometimes move, sometimes boards creak. And as we're telling her this, I can definitely tell you, in my mind, I was thinking that was too loud to be any type of a creaky board within the house. So we continue our conversation, and sure enough, within another few minutes, we hear the front door. The door started, the knob started to rattle as if somebody was coming in. And again, my colleague and I jump up, 2 grown men, and we go to confront these juveniles that are terrorizing this poor girl. And sure enough, there's nobody there. And at this point, my colleague, who doesn't like ghosts, was starting to get very, very freaked out and kind of wanted to leave. But I felt a little guilty, as we were here to help this poor girl. And I started to think that there wasn't juveniles out there, that there was something else going on. And so, but I didn't want to scare her, so I sat her down and kind of explained the situation, what she needed to do as quickly as I could, as we my colleague was sort of tugging at my sleeve to leave. And she just kept asking what it was, and we told her, it's probably neighborhood kids pranking the new person living in this house. She seemed to, I want to say she accepted that, knowing that probably wasn't true, but I think she did not want to face the reality of the situation, that there was something else going on within this house. And with that, the last part of this story is we said goodbye, as nothing else happened at that point for the next 20 or so minutes. And as we exited, I kind of wanted to look around the house one more time to see maybe somebody was hiding after pulling these little tricks. And sure enough, there was nobody there. But as I looked up into the window, I did see what I thought to be a person standing in the window, and at the time I just assumed there was somebody else in the house, and I went back to the car with my colleague. We started to drive away, and I kind of told him, you know, she shouldn't be too scared. There's somebody else in the house with her. And my colleague looked at me, and he goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, when I was walking around the house to see if I could find the source of the knocking, I saw a man in the window. Well, what I thought to be a man. It was a person. And my colleague kind of looked at me, and I think at the time, now reflectively, he was gauging my seriousness, and he said, "Hey, you know, she said she was alone. There was no one else in the house." And I said, "Oh, yeah, she did say that." And he said that while I was talking to her, he went and used the bathroom, and there was only one bathroom. It was upstairs, and this is not a very large house. It's just, you know, two, 3-bedroom house, very, very small little house that just had 2 bedrooms upstairs and a bathroom. He said that there was nobody else in that house. And so we kind of looked at each other and said that we probably won't be doing any more house calls at that house, if that was just too spooky. It was too creepy. So that concludes my first quick story. I have several more of these. Well, I have a few more of these. Some are a little bit more not as innocent as knocking doors and fiddling doorknobs and or shadows in the window. Even though that was very, very spooky of the time. Some of these are a little bit different, but I'll get to that later if the people call for it. But other than that, thanks for listening. It's been Ioe Torrent. If I don't see you before Halloween, have a happy Halloween.
Would you like to see something strange? Come with us and you will see. It's our town of Halloween. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Pumpkin scream in the dead of night. This is Halloween. Everybody make a scene. Trick or treat.